What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we'll be checking out the Xiaomi Mi TV 4a. So let's get right into it. What we have here is a 43-inch 1080p LED backlit Xiaomi TV. Now it doesn't say specifically what type of display it is, but I want to say it's IPS, but don't hold me on that. It comes with a built-in Android OS, dual AC Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.2. A quick look at the Android specs here. We have a quad-core AMD processor, a Mali 450 for a GPU, 2GB of RAM, and 8GB of built-in storage. Taking a look at the overall design, it has some very nice, pleasing aesthetics, and I found a lot of people online actually are fond of this thing and actually buy this TV just for the design and how it looks, and I agree, it looks beautiful. The bezels here are not too thick. The overall look is really nice and sleek. Once again, it's all black, there's no accents whatsoever. There's a very simple white Mi logo on the front. The weight of it is just under 8 kilograms and has very slim, low-profile legs. And yes, it does have VESA mounting options. Taking a look at the panel itself, it is actually really beautiful, and once again, I think it is IPS, but we can't know for sure. It doesn't say on the website, but I am saying IPS because 1, I think it looks like IPS, 2, it has some very impressive viewing angles, and 3, Xiaomi actually has models that are labeled as IPS on their website. So they have the 55-inch 4K, I believe, and that one is IPS. I'll leave a link for that as well in the description if you guys are interested. They also have a 32-inch 720p, but I would not recommend going for that too much. That said, the contrast levels here are actually pretty okay. They're pretty decent. They're nothing crazy. It's obviously not OLED, so the darks are not very dark. Blacks are fairly black. Whites are pretty white if you use my settings, which we'll get to that in just a bit. You can do a lot of adjustments when it comes to display and the sound actually. But the display here does have a glossy finish, so it is a bit reflective. And then we talk about some things that are usually not talked about when it comes to TVs. It does not have any dead pixels. There's barely any backlight bleed, and the viewing angles are once again very, very good. But one thing about this panel that kinda wish it was better was latency, and that I think is because of the OS, because the OS here actually runs the whole entire system, which I'll show you guys in just a bit here. Latency here is pretty noticeable, especially if you use a mouse pointer. You'll notice it instantly, you'll see that there's a delay, but it's not too bad to the point where you just simply cannot use it as a computer. It may annoy you, it may not. I'm a PC gamer, I have multiple monitors, and I wasn't too bugged about it because it's a TV. I don't plan to play on a 43-inch TV, so I don't plan to use a keyboard and mouse on this thing anyways. That said, we'll talk about gaming on this thing in just a bit here. Gaming is actually really enjoyable, especially if you use a gamepad. Now, there are actually a couple things that are faintly mentioned in the store page as well as in the pictures that tell you about how cool this TV is. One of them is actually being HDR, which is supposed to have 10-bit color depth, which I have tested with my GTX 970 computer, and I went to the settings of NVIDIA, set the color profile to full, and it was actually showing me that I could do 12-bit instead of 10. So I went ahead and hopped on Netflix, and I actually did not notice any difference. So really, I don't have any HDR content, and I really can't test that. But it is a 1080p panel, so you shouldn't be able to notice much anyways. Now, the other thing that it has is HLG or hybrid log gamma, and I think that's the options in the menu that have some kind of auto adjustments, but we'll get to that in just a bit and show you guys how to change the colors and how to change the volume levels. Now, moving on to the input methods, we have two HDMI 2.0Bs, which explains the HDR and why we have HDMI 2.0, two USB 2.0s for the internal Android system, SPDIF, and get this, an antenna port. Yes, this TV has an antenna, and that is because it comes from China. They don't have coaxial, and I think that's how they get their TV, or they get it through some kind of satellite box that hooks up through HDMI. And to control this whole TV, you have to use the included remote that runs off a 3-volt battery, which is nice to see. And if you don't have a remote and you want to use your smartphone that has an infrared sensor, you can go ahead and install the Xiaomi remote app and be able to control the TV that way. Now, moving on to the outputs, we have two 6-watt speakers that support Dolby Virtual Surround Sound, Bass Boost, and DTS. And you have a ton of adjustments. You can use the equalizer and tune it to your liking, but in my experience, it's an okay speaker. It's not distorted. It can get pretty loud, but when it comes to bass, obviously it's not really there. But don't expect any crazy bass, even though it has some kind of bass boost. Once again, I'll leave my settings that I've used for this TV on screen here. Now, if we talk about the adjustments, the thing is that it is in Chinese. Unfortunately, the volume part of the TV is not in English, and you can't really change it. You have to use a phone and have it translate, but once you know what it is, and once you set it up, you're not going to really want to touch it. Once again, the display here is awesome. It looks beautiful, and it is 1080p 43 inches. We have Bluetooth 4.2, dual band AC Wi-Fi, and having Bluetooth 4.2 gives us some really cool features that you really don't get on most TVs. One of them is being able to hook up a pair of headphones that are paired directly to the TV that would allow you to listen wirelessly to whatever you're listening to on the TV. It could be the HDMI 1, it could be HDMI 2, the AV, or the internal system of the TV, and be able to listen to all of that content using one pair of headphones with one paired device, which is the TV itself. So you can have your PlayStation, your Xbox, your computer, whatever, and it doesn't matter what system you have running. You don't have to disconnect and reconnect your headset to that console. You just have it connected to your TV and you'll be set from the get-go. And another cool thing you can use, since it runs Android, you can have like an LED system that uses Bluetooth and install the app on the TV and be able to control your RGB LED system around your house or whatever using that. So yeah, wireless Bluetooth headphones, really awesome to have. And finally, let's go ahead and talk about the Android OS, the interface, functions, and the Chinese OS that they call Patchwall, and it's pretty patched up. So let's talk about it. So basically what we have here is a TV that is being controlled mainly by the Android system. So when you boot up the TV itself, you'll be waiting for the Android system to boot up, which is fairly quick, and you're going to have to do that just once a day basically, since your TV is going to be on the whole day. Yes, it does have a screensaver, and yes, you can put it into sleep mode. Now, one funny thing is, if you actually turn on the TV while it's connected to Wi-Fi, you will encounter a 20-second or so Chinese ad, which is pretty funny and pretty annoying. And if you want to get rid of that, you can just turn off your Wi-Fi and it will actually just go away. Either way, I turn off my Wi-Fi on this TV. I don't really use it. If I use anything, it's probably going to be the Bluetooth function, which is really useful. And anything else, I'll just download it, turn off the Wi-Fi, and be set to go. Now, of course, with this Android system, you can plug in a USB flash drive and play videos through that way. You don't need a separate Android box, but I do recommend getting a separate Android box if you want those Android functions. That said, you can play videos through a USB flash drive and control it using an air mouse if you want through the USB ports on the back very easily. So it's not completely useless. So yeah, the biggest selling point for the Chinese market of this TV is that it is loaded with content. It is loaded with movies, TV shows, cartoons, anime, live TV, and just a plethora of different types of content that you can get and watch on this TV directly using the internal system that is loaded with Chinese apps. Now, some stuff doesn't play here in Canada, but some stuff does, and the quality is actually pretty good, but most of it is in Chinese. Once again, it's either dubbed or subbed, but that's that. Now, if you want to change the TV to English, I'll make a separate tutorial for that. It's pretty simple. Basically, you install a couple apps through APKs using a flash drive. You go into the settings, the actual Android settings, because it has two different settings. You have the actual Android settings that I usually see, but if you try to go to settings through its menu, it will actually give you a Chinese settings menu that are made for the TV itself and not allow you to get to the actual settings menu. So to do that, you basically install a couple apps, change it to English, and you'll be good to go. But what I have done here is actually I have went ahead and installed a button mapper, and I went ahead and mapped my home button to launch the Nova Launcher app, because no, you cannot change the default launcher on this thing, and no, you cannot root it using King Root yet, because it doesn't work. I've tried it multiple times and it failed multiple times. That said, the Mi TV 3S, which is the previous model, does have King Root support, so you can root it very easily and get Google Play Store. Which brings us to Google Play Store. You cannot get it until you root this TV, which we'll have to wait and see when that happens. Once that does happen, I'll make a video about it. So hopefully that will be very soon, because the Android OS that is built into this thing is actually really quick and very snappy, and I really hope to use it and have it as a kind of a useful OS. So that is the Chinese OS. You can play videos on it using a USB very easily. You can install applications that don't require Google Play Store or any Google services using APKs through a USB flash drive, or you can download it directly from a web browser, or you can go ahead and install Aptoid, which is kind of a black market app that gets you free apps and whatnot. It's a pretty quick way to install apps that you need, like Google Chrome or VLC, for example. But one thing that this thing can do very well and not have an issue with is run Kodi, and it's something that you're probably going to be installing anyway, especially if you're getting a separate Android box. You're going to be installing it, so you can install Kodi on this thing, install the plugins and streams that you want, and have it do whatever you want. And yes, you can play retro games on it if you want. You can hook up a gamepad and play games directly on your TV. So this TV can pretty much become an emulation machine internally, so you can run NES games and have whatever you want on this TV and run it that way. And you can set all that up directly inside the TV itself. Now, if you want to watch YouTube on this thing using an APK of the YouTube app, you can, but unfortunately it's kind of useless since you don't have any Google Play services. So you can log in and use your subscription feed to watch the content that you want to watch. So yeah, that is that. Now, before we move on forward, let's go ahead and talk about how you can adjust your settings. First of all, get your phone, grab your Google Translate and set it to translate Chinese to English, and use the photo mode to translate pictures on the display live. So the menu here is pretty simple and straightforward. You hold the menu button down and you'll get this menu. You can change your input method just like that, and you can also change your color display settings. So you can go ahead and change your settings, and here are the settings that I'm using for my display that I have customized to my liking to get the purest white color that I can get. You can tweak it yourself, but it does have a fairly good amount of adjustments, and you can change also the display brightness very easily through the menu here. Now if you want to change your volume levels, you really don't need the app, but if you really want to read what it says, then you'll have to go ahead and grab your translation app. But basically, yes, you can change the equalizer and set the settings. Once again, here are my settings for the volume controls. Now, moving on to what consuming content is like on it. Now, gaming is the first thing I tried, and or the first thing that I've noticed. When I hooked up a mouse, as I mentioned before, it does have some very noticeable latency. Now, it does claim to have about 6 to 6.5 milliseconds of latency, but I can tell you right now, that is absolutely not the case here. The panel itself may support that, which is pretty fast and really good for a TV, but I think the Android OS or whatever is inside the TV here is slowing down and causing some latency. So don't recommend using a mouse on this thing, although if you really want, you can go ahead, it's not a big issue. But where this TV really shines is being a TV. And being a TV, usually you'll have a gamepad hooked up to it, and I actually really enjoyed playing games on this thing using my Steam controller. So I went ahead and launched Steam Big Picture mode, and I had a great time playing. Pretty much any game that supports a gamepad is very, very enjoyable, and the latency actually disappeared while I was playing using a gamepad, so that's cool. And even then, why would you play a keyboard and mouse on a 43-inch 1080p panel? Now, moving on to video consumption, I have tried movies, TV shows, anime, and YouTube TV, which is something I tried for the first time, and it was actually very, very enjoyable. The YouTube TV app, if you want to try it out on your computer, you can go ahead and type youtube.com/TV and activate it and do whatever it tells you. But it's a really cool interface. I watched YouTube on it, and it was actually very enjoyable, very high quality, very snappy. And pretty much I logged in and had all my subscription feed coming up on the TV in a very nice listed way, and I had enjoyed YouTube content that way. Anime, TV shows, movies, once again, they all look fantastic, very beautiful, everything looks great, absolutely beautiful panel, especially for video consumption. It is an absolute beast when it comes to that. And once again, that is when the Bluetooth headphones function comes into play. It is really awesome. You won't know you need it until you actually need it. It's pretty great. You don't have to use a wire. You can just hook up Bluetooth headphones to the TV and be connected to whatever system that is hooked up to the TV. So yeah, this thing is actually pretty good when it comes to video consumption. If you want to play games, you can. I would recommend a gamepad and a computer or a PS4 or a PS3, which I have tested on this thing. I did test a PlayStation 3, but that thing is too slow. I had my computer here. I had a Steam controller, hooked those up, and I had a fantastic time. And if you're going to be using your computer, I recommend getting this Air Mouse right here. It's pretty great. It has a keyboard, it has a mouse, an Air Mouse, that is, and you can hover your hand around the TV and you can select things like a normal mouse. But yeah, so overall, my highlights for this TV would be 1, video consumption. It's great for that. The display is beautiful. That is 2. The Bluetooth function is fantastic. That is 3. And 4, video gaming with a gamepad. These are the 4 main things that really stood out to me right now. So the conclusion, you're getting a really nice looking panel that is enclosed with a sleek looking body that does have mounting points, and it comes with some very nice stable low profile legs. Things that can be improved, latency, that is the biggest issue that I face with this thing. A couple more HDMI ports would have been nice. English support, once again, is something very important because it does have an Android OS, and why not be able to use it? So once again, hopefully we'll get some root options and be able to make use of that OS. And have the ability to change launcher and install an English patch through an official Xiaomi update or a package that you could install. That would give us Google Play, change the OS into English, and allow us to change the default launcher. And that is actually pretty much it for this video. So I have been playing around with this thing for the past 2 weeks, and I've tried out multiple things, and this is what I thought about it. And finally, let's go ahead and talk about the price point. This thing is going for $508, which is pretty hefty for a 1080p panel. Now, it does have HDR, which I wasn't able to confirm that it works, but it does give me the option to do 12-bit color depth, but that's not it. It's $508. The shipping is pretty expensive. To Canada, it actually costs $170 to ship to Canada, which is also pretty expensive. And for that kind of price, you can get a 4K 55-inch TV off Amazon. But if your options of TVs are limited in Europe or somewhere in the world, I'm not too sure. One thing for sure, in Canada and the US, this TV is not the best to go for. Obviously, it doesn't have all the functions that you need, and most of the functions that it does have, you can't really use them. So For $508 plus $170 of shipping, it is a really expensive TV for a 43-inch 1080p panel. But if this does tickle your fancy, then just go for it. But if you do want to get a Xiaomi TV and you really want to get this one, I don't recommend getting the 1080p one. I would recommend getting the 4K 55-inch or whatnot one. I'll leave links for those in the description below if you're interested in looking at it. But to sum it all up, it is an expensive TV, but this is what I think about it, and I've tested it for the past 2 weeks. The video is not pretty long, and I hope I have covered pretty much everything. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and that is actually pretty much it for this video. So thank you all for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe for content like this. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.